Week number 6, 1309, dealing with plant growth and change. Lecture number 5 with notes, with summarized notes. Interior fixtures remain the same from one day to the next. Artwork, furniture, etc. Plants change daily in your interior scape design. Height, angles, new growth, dying leaves. Some will flower and even bear fruit. Some might show signs of an insect infestation or nutrient deficiently. With interior design, most fixtures remain the same from one day to the next until they are replaced with something new. In the interior plantscape, plants are changing daily, growing taller, leaning towards the light, adding new leaves and dropping old ones. Flowers bloom and die, bearing fruit and seeds if they are allowed to develop. Soil becomes compacted or decays, sometimes seeming to disappear altogether. Leaves may develop spots or brown edges if insects, disease, or nutritional problems come up, and they may change color, shape, and size as a plant grows and adapts to its environment. The Savannah Theory. Savannah Theory. People like to be surrounded by nature as our ancestors were. Apply this to today's society, and most people feel comfortable by nature and the feeling of being surrounded by plants. We apply these concepts to design by grouping plants, having some seen more than others, grouping of lower plants, and maybe some ground cover. Adding in a variety of plant shapes, textures, and colors completes this view. The interior plantscape is a constantly changing indoor garden of one or many plants. Unlike a sofa or piece of artwork, plants need care. This is why people are drawn to plants and feel a connection to them. The Savannah Theory proposes that people prefer to be in savanna-like environments, perhaps due to the evolutionary development of humans in the savannas of Africa. This theory can be adapted in the interior scape to create an atmosphere in which visitors feel most comfortable. In nature, this type of environment includes scattered clusters of trees for shelter from the sun and protection from predators, long distance views for surveillance of predators, even ground cover to make moving across the terrain easier and more efficient, and a rich diversity of plant and animal species. Plant diversity. Shorter plants or placed within sight for obstructed views. Variety of plant shapes, textures, and colors. Similar containers and top dressing. Applying these concepts to the interior scape results in a design marked by grouping of plants, some shorter plants and plants placed within sight for obstructed views, grouping of lower plants using the same ground cover, top dressing, and containers throughout the space, and a variety of plant shapes, textures, and colors. Biophilic design. Biophilic design, the human attraction to and desire to be in an environment to be in environments that have natural features including parks, gardens, street trees, bird feeders, flowers, big sky, and water elements. Decades of research show that affiliation with nature, whether outside or indoors, can enhance our physical, social, and emotional health and boost performance. Despite the fact that humans have lived primarily in built environments for thousands of years, there still lives within the human psyche an evolved propensity to affiliate with living organisms and natural systems. We still feel the tug of nature in the backyard gardens, street trees, bird feeders, flowers, and the changing patterns of indoor of light indoors as the sun makes its pathway across the sky. An intensive body of research shows that our desire to affiliate with nature also is good for us. Acclimating to light. Plants adapt to new light levels. This is called acclimation. Changes from greenhouse to office are usually the largest adjustment. Takes place in the first few months. Plants have a better chance of surviving if they are nursery shade acclimated to lower lighting. A plant's leaves will change as it adapts to its new environment. Most of that adaptation is the plant's response to much lower light levels than what it enjoyed at the grower's nursery or greenhouse where it was exposed to natural light. This process is called acclimation and it and usually takes place over the first few months that a plant is in its new home. A plant that undergoes much of its acclimation prior to being delivered to the interior will lose less foliage once it is on the site. Its chances of survival are much greater if it was shade grown or shade acclimated. Shade cloth. Greenhouses use shade cloth to block the sunlight to the plants in the greenhouse. Cloth is sold in different levels of shading, 20 to 80%. More recently, 5% to 95%. Plants are still fertilized and treated for pests during this time. Shade cloth screening fabric comes in several different levels of shading, 20% shade up to 80% shade. In a greenhouse, the shade cloth is drawn over the rods hanging below the ceiling as a drapery ceiling. Nurseries use shade houses especially for taller plants. These are open air outdoor structure with wood or metal posts and shade cloth hung over the top and sides. Sun and rain still get to the plants, but in varying degrees depending on the shade cloth used. Plants are still fertilized and treated for pests and diseases to grow a premium specimen for interior scape use. Additional cost involved. Not all nurseries will acclimate their plants before they are sold. Extra work, extra growing time. Discount stores don't want to pay more for less profit. Plants 50% green shade cloth, nursery stock, cabbage, peppers. 75% green shade cloth, orchids, ferns, large olive trees. Plants grown for homeowners are not always shade grown or shade acclimated. There is an additional cost involved in growing plants this way, not only in the extra steps it takes and in the cost of the cloth, but also in the longer growing time needed to bring in a plant to a marketable size. Discount stores usually don't want to pay for this because it drives their cost up and profits down. Because plants with vertical leaves and thicker canopies of foliage are often not shade grown. These do best when used outdoors for patio or placed in areas that receive high amounts of direct sunlight. Acclimation process. Plant's metabolism begins to slow down. When the plant realizes it cannot sustain this faster metabolism due to the lower photosynthesis, photosynthesis rate, it will start to show signs of shock. Leaves are naturally shed interior and bottom of foliage canopy. Many plant companies remove these leaves prior to shipping. It takes a couple of weeks for the plant to acclimate to less light, and the plant goes through a period of shock. The plant's metabolism slows way down and changes start to take place. This is when problems are likely to arise. During acclimation, plants will naturally lose some of their leaves, mostly in the interior and bottom of the foliage canopy. These leaves are shaded by the rest of the foliage and not receiving enough light to manufacture food they need for survival. This is a normal process and usually not a cause for alarm. Many plant care companies will remove some of the lower leaves and leaves within the depth of the canopy, thinning out the foliage prior to delivering new plants in order to avoid some of this leaf drop. This saves the plant and its new owner from the drama and trauma of leaves falling off. A very good practice to follow. It also helps new plants acclimate more easily by allowing light to reach all the leaves. Acclimation to light. Plants do begin to grow new leaves when it begins to adapt to the new setting. Leaves may be thinner, leaf shape may change, usually wider to capture more light. In high light conditions, leaves can become larger. Plants will then grow new leaves once it has acclimated to its new home. The new leaves will be different in size, thickness, and shape, resulting in a plant that has adapted to be as efficient as possible in using the light it has available. The leaves will probably be thinner as cells rearrange themselves in new leaves, making those chloroplasts more exposed to the light. The shape may also change, and leaves may become wider to capture more light. If the new location does not provide enough light for a plant to survive long term, a different set of changes will occur. New leaves will come out smaller and narrower instead, shrinking down to a size that the plant can maintain with the amount of light available. This is a built-in defense mechanism that allows plants to survive in less than ideal conditions. The leaves may become smaller and smaller as the plants run out of energy to grow new leaves. Eventually, the leaves become so small that the plant no longer looks attractive and must be replaced. These changes take place during the first 6 to 8 weeks that a plant is in its new home. This is a crucially important time, and expert care is needed as a plant adjusts to its new environment. Plants are most susceptible to disease and other problems during this acclimation period. Acclimation to light. No, stay down. Acclimation to light. New leaves will be small and narrow. As plant grows, leaves will continue to grow smaller. These changes will take about 6 to 8 weeks after being placed in the new space. Care is important during this time. If plant does not look better after this time, plant may need to be replaced. These changes take place during the first 6 to 8 weeks that a plant is in its new home. This is a crucially important time and expert care is needed as a plant adjusts to its new environment. Plants are most susceptible to disease and other problems during this acclimation as explained in the page before. Slowing metabolism. As the environment changes, the plant changes, goes through acclimation each time the environment changes. Plants undergo other changes during their acclimation period. All of these responses are part of the process as the plant adjusts to its new environment. Plants can change their environment so they respond by changing themselves as often as the environment changes. Slowing metabolism. Nursery plants have a faster metabolism due to the growing process. Plants in greenhouse are not making money until they are sold. Therefore, the goal is to grow out a plant as quickly as possible. Plant growth naturally slows down when moved to a lower light location. Slowing metabolism. Decrease in water uptake as metabolism slows. If a plant is over fertilized, plant roots may actually push water out of the plant and into the soil. The plant will push the excess fertilizer to the leaf margins and cells will start to dehydrate, tip burn. Nurseries will often leach out the soil before the plant is delivered to a retailer. Slowing metabolism. Continue. Plants will take up excess water while they are in their new home, thinking they are still in the nursery. Adjusting your watering practices to help the plant adjust is a good practice. Remember that the longer a plant is in a nursery, the more it will cost the retailer. Lose a leaf, gain a leaf. Plants can also drop their leaves if they are too dry. Sometimes it is just an old leaf dropping. Average leaf span for a leaf average lifespan for a leaf is 6 months to 2 years. When the plant reaches homeostasis, see definition on the next slide. We call this leaf light equilibrium. If a new leaf grows, then an old leaf falls off to maintain this balance. Remove older spent leaves to encourage new growth. Plants lose their leaves for a number of different reasons. Sometimes they are just oldest leaves on the plant. The lifespan for leaves is between 6 months to 2 years and 2 years. Homeostasis. Homeostasis is a property of systems that regulate themselves to a relatively stable state. Simply put, homeostasis is just balance. Mature plant size and lifespan. Plants will reach a certain height once they attain maturity, depending on the species. Many indoor plants have a smaller maturity than their counterparts in the wild. To maintain a mature plant, regular pruning should be done. It is okay for a plant to die due to senescence. As long as plants are getting sufficient light, they will continue to grow throughout their life. They will grow taller towards the primary source of light. In most cases, they will also grow wider and stems and branches grow. Plants will reach a certain height once they attain maturity, depending on their species. But their mature height is the height they would be if they were growing outdoors in their natural habitat. Many tropical plants will reach mature height of 40 to 60 feet or more if they were growing outdoors. A trip to the tropics will show an impressive display of indoor plants being grown outdoors as landscape plants, or in the rainforest where many originate. In the interior landscape, plants need to be maintained within a size that corresponds to the design of the space. This often means that trimming and pruning them is required on a daily basis to maintain the design's integrity. It's always best for the designer to specify plants that will fit the space, not only when they are first installed, but for years to come. Like all other living creatures, plants have a lifespan, and occasionally an otherwise healthy plant will die simply because it has reached the end of its lifespan.